The Yamato battleship is a name that resonates deeply within the annals of naval history. Widely regarded as the largest and most powerful battleship ever constructed, the Yamato was a symbol of Japan's military might and ambition during World War II. Built to face the growing threat of the United States' naval dominance, it was a marvel of engineering and a showcase of Japan's technological prowess. Measuring a staggering 263 meters in length and displacing 72,800 tons, the Yamato stood as the ultimate symbol of the power and pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy. The origins of the Yamato can be traced back to the early 1930s, when the Japanese Navy began seeking ways to challenge the growing naval strength of the United States and the United Kingdom. With the signing of naval disarmament treaties like the Washington Naval Treaty, Japan saw the need to build a battleship that could surpass the limitations of such agreements. The treaty, which restricted the tonnage of battleships, was intended to prevent another arms race. However, Japan chose to interpret the treaty's restrictions loosely, aiming to build a ship that would outclass any other battleship in terms of firepower, speed, and size. In 1937, the construction of the Yamato began at the Kure Naval Arsenal. The Yamato was designed to be an imposing force on the seas, a ship that could engage enemy vessels at extreme ranges while withstanding the most powerful attacks. With a design emphasizing offensive power, the ship's 9 46-centimeter guns were its most distinguishing feature. These guns, the largest ever installed on a battleship, were capable of launching shells weighing up to 1,460 kilograms, with a range of over 40 kilometers. The massive firepower of the Yamato was complemented by its unparalleled armor. The ship's belt armor was up to 410 millimeters thick, while its deck was reinforced with 200 millimeters of steel. This combination of firepower and armor made the Yamato an almost invulnerable vessel on paper, leading many to believe that it could turn the tide in any naval confrontation. As the construction of the Yamato progressed, its size and complexity presented significant challenges. To accommodate the ship's massive guns and armor, new techniques in shipbuilding had to be developed. The ship's hull alone was a feat of engineering, requiring a workforce of over 5,000 men to complete. Throughout the construction period, engineers faced the challenge of ensuring the ship could maintain its speed and maneuverability while carrying such an enormous amount of weight. The Yamato's advanced radar systems, propulsion technology, and fire control systems made it a formidable force. However, while the ship's design was groundbreaking, it also revealed a critical flaw. Its sheer size made it difficult to maneuver in combat. Its massive displacement, coupled with its reliance on battleship-centered naval strategy, made the Yamato somewhat vulnerable to newer forms of warfare, such as airstrikes and submarine attacks, that would play a decisive role in the Pacific theater. The Yamato was completed and commissioned into the Imperial Japanese Navy in December 1941, just weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor. However, it did not see significant combat action for some time. Initially, the ship was used as a deterrent, a floating symbol of Japan's naval superiority. As the war progressed, the Yamato became involved in several key naval engagements, though it was often overshadowed by Japan's growing air fleet. In 1942, during the Battle of Midway, the Yamato was part of the Japanese fleet sent to strike at American forces in the Pacific. However, the battle ended in a catastrophic defeat for Japan. The Japanese lost 4 aircraft carriers, and their naval air forces were severely depleted. The Yamato, while not directly engaged in the battle, was an important part of the fleet's presence. Its role, however, was symbolic rather than tactical. Following the defeat at Midway, the Yamato remained in the fleet, but was used sparingly. The war in the Pacific increasingly shifted towards air and submarine warfare, with American carriers and submarines taking a larger role in confronting Japan's naval forces. The Yamato's involvement in large-scale naval battles became less frequent, though it continued to serve as an imposing presence in the Imperial Navy. By 1944, the tide of the war had turned decisively against Japan. The Battle of the Philippine Sea, fought in June of that year, marked a turning point in the Pacific theater. The United States Navy decisively defeated the Japanese fleet, inflicting catastrophic losses on Japanese naval air forces. The battle, often referred to as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, saw the Japanese losing over 400 aircraft. It was a devastating blow to Japan's ability to wage war at sea. The Yamato, by this point, was no longer the key asset it had once been. The new focus of naval strategy had shifted away from large surface engagements and towards carrier-based warfare and submarines. Despite this, the Yamato remained in service, serving as both a symbol of Japan's naval pride and a potential asset in future battles. By 1945, the Japanese Empire was on the brink of collapse. The United States had successfully captured key islands in the Pacific, and the Japanese Navy had been virtually destroyed. The Yamato, which had once been the pride of the fleet, now found itself relegated to a secondary role. The Imperial Navy, desperate to change the course of the war, decided to deploy the Yamato on a final suicidal mission to Okinawa. Operation Tengo, the final mission of the Yamato, began on April 7, 1945. The ship, accompanied by a small escort of destroyers, was tasked with attempting to break the American blockade of Okinawa and slow down the Allied advance. The mission was doomed from the outset. The Yamato was no match for the overwhelming power of the United States Navy, which had air superiority and an arsenal of advanced aircraft capable of sinking any ship, no matter how powerful. The Yamato was spotted by American reconnaissance planes long before it could reach its target. As the ship sailed towards Okinawa, it was met by waves of American aircraft, including bombers and torpedo planes. The first wave of attacks struck the Yamato with several bombs, but it continued to press on, firing its guns at the attacking planes. However, the battle-hardened American aviators were relentless, and by mid-afternoon, the Yamato had been severely damaged. It was hit by several torpedoes and bombs, which caused massive fires and explosions within the ship. As the fires spread, the Yamato's crew fought desperately to keep the ship afloat, but the damage was too great. At 2:23 p.m. on April 7, 1945, the Yamato sank, taking with it over 3,000 sailors and officers. The loss of the Yamato was a tragic and symbolic end to the once mighty battleship, but it also marked the end of the era of the large battleship as the dominant force in naval warfare. The sinking of the Yamato signaled the end of Japan's naval power and its ultimate defeat in World War II. While the ship never engaged in the decisive naval battle it was designed for, its legacy remains significant. The Yamato became a symbol of Japan's military pride, as well as its tragic failure to adapt to the changing nature of warfare. Today, the Yamato is remembered as one of the most impressive and tragic warships in history. It stands as a testament to the ambition and determination of the Japanese Navy, but also to the limits of technological power in the face of overwhelming opposition. The Yamato's story is one of grandeur, tragedy, and the consequences of an empire that sought to hold on to its past glories, even as the world around it was rapidly changing. The story of the Yamato is more than just the tale of a battleship. It is a reflection of the larger narrative of World War II, a time of immense technological advancements, military innovation, and the eventual destruction of empires. The Yamato was a ship that embodied the ideals of a nation, but it also highlighted the flaws and limitations of its strategic thinking. In the end, the Yamato's legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of over-reliance on a single weapon and the inability to adapt to the realities of modern warfare.